Because
That's
as
right.
long as we're stuck in that tangly web of blame, the blame game, especially in relationships, because
Mhm.
we also meet partners that are this at the same I found in my experience at the same level of emotional wounding as
Yeah,
ourselves.
yeah.
And it's a great opportunity for growth.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Today's episode is with Stephanie Canavesio. Now, Stephanie is a dear friend and somebody who I respect and admire for all her spiritual work. This session was such an enlightening episode because it really does guide us into who we are and how to really accept, appreciate, and love ourselves. Now, essentially, we think that loving ourselves is just giving ourselves a hug or a kind affirmation, which that can be part of it. But we dive even deeper into what really self-love is and self-acceptance is and healing is. And we actually do talk about some inner child work. I'm very excited for today, and I can't wait for you guys to watch this episode with Stephanie because it is such a light and enlightening episode. So enjoy, and I'll see you guys. Thank you for the ongoing support. I also want to mention that it's important to highlight the sponsors of this show. And Anita Tutoring is one of them. She's such an important person for children. She's been a teacher for many, many years. And I adore her style and her method of teaching, and most importantly, her philosophy. So definitely utilize her tutoring services. You will not regret it because she's such a wonderful, wonderful asset to the community. Thank you.
All
Great.
right, Stephanie Canavesio, right?
Yeah, that's it.
It's
Perfect.
such an honor to have you on my show. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for accepting my invitation. I love your work. I love your energy, and I'm very, very grateful that I get to talk to you today.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I was on Instagram a few months ago and I saw that you had posted this amazing reel by Elizabeth Gilbert, and she was talking about truth. And that video, Stephanie, resonated with me so much. And I don't know if it's just me, but I think that this is something that um, a lot of people struggle with. And it's this truth, right? Telling the truth, speaking your truth. So, what she was portraying in the video is basically she would look at other people and tell them what they want to hear,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so I've done that. Have you done that?
Well, I mean, what you're explaining is more, can be also um, considered people pleasing.
Yes.
And yeah, I probably spent the majority of my life saying what others needed to hear, probably out of a fear of not belonging or being rejected.
Yeah.
And it just makes me think when you say that, because I was living in Nebraska. Now I live in Ibiza, but I was living in Nebraska and I moved to New York City, Upper East Side, like a completely different dimension from my public school in Omaha. And I learned very quickly that being who I was wasn't going to be enough to belong to this new group of kids. And that kind of confirmed already my shyness and my insecurity. And yeah, so not like learning to speak truth has probably been my the reason why I do what I do today is because I was so completely and utterly disconnected from my own truth.
Yeah, I have to agree. I understand that. I agree with you, but I'm also in that stage as well. But I would love to know if you want to share, like, allowed you to really be conscious of that. Like, what stage or what did you go through that you said, "What is this? Like, what am I doing?"
That's a good question. It probably like I like I for myself anyway, I feel like with those such big themes, you can hear as much about them as you want, but until you experience them for yourselves and with a breakdown, a mental, um, like, I mean, we used to not talk about this stuff before that much. It was like the nervous breakdown. Now it's quite common. But in 2000, like in 2008, I realized, wow, like I'm having super bad hangovers all the time. I'm doing drugs and I don't really stop doing drugs, even though I know they're not good for me. And I realized, because I noticed just how much I was running to soothe myself, that there was something inside, like, that was aching, and something inside me was my body was saying no. And that's why Dr. Gabor Mate, who I was super lucky to meet at that time and read the book, I realized, okay, my body is saying no, but why? What is that even, like, what's going on inside? So then I went on my own journey of self-discovery, which wasn't a linear journey. There was no, it was really just kind of like rock and roll, um, diving into the depths of my pain with psychedelic journeys, with I think, yeah, at the time I was already doing breath work and just a lot of deep therapy, that I began to question why, what was going on inside of my head, that I was so afraid to be authentic, that I was willing to destroy my body. I was willing to hate myself so much, to betray myself so much, that that I couldn't speak up. I didn't I didn't know how to raise my hand and talk. Literally, I was so closed in with myself, and that's when I understood, oh wow, my inner world is really different from the outer world, and it's really insanity in here, and I need help. And so I realized I needed to get sober. I realized I needed to stop the addictive behaviors, because I started studying Buddhism in the early 2000s. I went to Nepal, I went to India, I went to Bhutan, and there was a lot of teaching about how obsessive behaviors are keeping us from feeling, and from, they're things that we do to avoid feeling the truth. And
That's right.
so, yeah, so then I got sober, and then the shit hit the fan, because once you're sober, then you're really facing your fear and anxiety and all those things that I had been educated in my American upbringing to numb with alcohol. And everybody just was just drinking all the time in Nebraska. And my parent, my mother never drank, but she was always like made fun of because she didn't drink. And um and no one was talking about it. And my father was an alcoholic, died from alcoholism, can't, like, related, cancer related
Yeah.
to cigarettes and pharmaceutical drugs. And I think I just knew, there was a part of me inside of me that knew something needed to change. Otherwise, I didn't. Yeah. Otherwise, like, why am I on this planet? There
Yeah.
must be more.
Yeah. I love how you used really two important words. You said my body was telling me no, and you also used the word betraying myself. And those are so, I mean, we're two therapists, right, talking how important it is to really recognize
Yeah.
when your body says no and how you're betraying yourself. So I would love to dive into this one. So let's talk about some of the ways, because there are millions of people betraying themselves and there are millions of people that suffer I mean, they're suffering. Their bodies are talking to them, but they're not listening. So I would love to guide people that are listening to this podcast. What are some of the symptoms that people experience when their body is saying no?
Well, may I invite you now to just take a deep breath in
Yes.
and exhale, and just take a moment to pause in stillness and tune in and listen to what's happening in terms of sensations. Or is there tension? Are you holding your shoulders? Do you notice that you're grasping your hands are in fists? I think just the amount of stress that we're experiencing in our life, we hold it without realizing it. And so just take a moment and soften and notice when you ask yourself, like, what's alive for me in this now moment? If my body could speak, what would it say? And you can get a lot of information in that moment.
Yeah.
So you can invite you to open your eyes again. It's just this simple act of pausing in silence in a world where we are bombarded, and taking a moment to be still, to listen, and not listen to your mind, but
Yeah.
tapping into the wisdom of your body. And I don't know what did your body say, for instance, when you ask it?
When I close my eyes and I take a deep breath, my body says, my back hurts. I
Your
hold
back
a
hurts?
lot of, yeah, I have always been the type of woman when I'm stressed and when I'm feeling overstimulated, overwhelmed, sad, all the tension always goes back to my back.
Yeah.
And so that's where I hold, like the middle part of my back is where I hold attention. So immediately when you invited me to that deep breathing, I was like, oh,
Can you tune in right now
yeah.
to your back? And you mentioned there's some sadness.
Yes,
And
when I'm feeling sad and yes,
in
yes,
this moment, do you notice any emotions underneath the tension or behind it?
stress.
Stress?
Yes.
So stress would be a perception. There is stress, but does how does it make you feel to be stressed?
Oh, angry. The
Okay,
feeling
so it's
is
anger.
anger. The feeling is anger for sure.
And how does it feel just to pause and make space for the anger?
I have worked on feeling that for such a long time that I can bear with it now. I'm not going to say it's uncomfortable. It's still it's still uncomfortable to feel it, but I think I still need to understand how to express it well.
Mm,
I don't know how to express it well, even though, like we have the background, we have the knowledge for it. But when it comes to your own life and all the experiences that you go through, people need to also understand like, it's normal. Like it's hard to stay with that feeling. It's hard to work with those feelings. It's really difficult, especially anger for me is really hard.
but
So,
do you mind me asking if you
no,
tune in to the anger and you ask the anger what she's most angry about in this now moment? What do you hear?
changes,
Hmm. Yeah,
changes.
that's a big one.
Yeah.
And when you tune into the anger about the changes, and we'll not go too deep into this right now, but when you ask the anger, this part of you that's angry about change, what does she need to know in this now moment? What do you hear?
A few things come to mind, but I think the one thing that ruminates in my mind is security.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, security.
Yeah. Safety
And
and security.
yeah, and could you just pause and maybe put a hand on your heart, and with the frequency of kindness,
Mhm.
take a moment to just acknowledge there's this part of you that is angry
Yeah.
and about the change and is just asking for a sense of safety and security. And can you offer that, but this time call in your higher self to assist you,
Oh,
that
yeah.
part of you that
That's
is
beautiful.
wise, and see
Yeah.
what happens.
I love that. That when I think about the wiser or the higher self, it's very safe and it's very reassuring. And that's beautiful. And why I say that is because, yeah, I absolutely can sometimes feel like you can't reach to solve your own anxieties. But what you just did is you're allowing my mind to know that, wait, like you can reach for the wisdom, like you have it.
Yeah. And the mind is a beautiful servant, but a terrible master, as someone said. And that I like the analogy, the metaphor, I guess, of put your beautiful mind in the passenger seat and put your higher self in the driver's seat
Oh,
and see
wow.
what happens just for a day. Try it out. And I think we underestimate because our minds are based in the past and we are not our thoughts, but
Yeah.
our minds are designed to keep us safe so that same things don't happen again. It's like it's like living life with the brakes on is when you spend your time trying to analyze or figure things out or think your way through things. It might work sometimes to do certain tasks, but for the future that awaits us, I really feel that I'm being asked to step up into the new version of myself. And that new version of myself, my mind is not designed to know what that is because my mind, remember, is limited. It's based in the past. It's designed to keep me safe. But the new me, the person that the future is calling from me, the one that I long for, my future self, she's rooting me on. I feel her. She's like, go for it. But you're going to have to leave all the ways that you thought you were behind because the new you is about really creating through trust and understanding that there are intelligences that are available to us that are beyond what we think or what we've been taught or programmed or whatever, but that there is an intelligence to this whole shebang. And we now quantum physics is kind of catching us up with us, but not really completely.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure you listened to the telepathy tapes that came out recently, but our capacities
Yeah.
are so much wider and more
Yes.
evolved than we can ever imagine. And
Imagine. Yeah.
but we need to believe it for it to unfold. Because if we want to stay back and be skeptical and criticize and judge, see, because the judgment is the block. Our judgment of ourself and others is what blocks that process of connecting to your higher self. I believe that's my experience. So if we're stuck in judgment or comparing or getting pissed off at other people for saying things or doing things, I mean, in America right now, man, there's a lot for me anyway. I'm like, I
There.
could judge, but that's holding me back in my process. I recognize it's kind of like a distraction judgment from being authentic because we feel right. Like, at least I'm doing something by showing my opinion and writing it down and making, at least I'm doing something. It's like, yeah, but maybe maybe your empowered self will be more of an asset. This is just me speaking. I'll be more of an asset when I'm my embodied and empowered self than somebody that's being a spectator and sitting back and watching the really off Netflix series unfold. Because sometimes you think, is this a movie? Is this even real?
Yeah. You know what's interesting is that helping people realize that they do have this higher self, and that higher self is full of knowledge and full of wisdom, but we're stuck in this, I don't know what to do as we kind of practice. So how can we how can people jump to that level of recognizing that higher self? Like, wait a minute, I have the answers. What am I freaking out about?
Excellent question. So you're asking how to guide people in embodying their higher self or even connecting. Well, it
Yes.
begins by, for me anyway, it begins by tuning into your emotions. And I was programmed to kind of not feel the pain and not on, anger wasn't pretty. I grew up in the Midwest, and it was kind of showing rage was very shameful. I mean, shameful, because nobody really understood that the emotional body was the first portal for me into feeling, into this other sense that we had of of sensory perception, of direct experience, of feeling our body, of actually inhabiting, being embodied and not being in the narratives or in the stories. So, number one, there are many names for higher self. It can be your super mind, it can be your authentic self, it can be your soul self, it can be your divine presence. It can be whatever, it can be what, all of those and none of those. It's up for, it can be Mother Nature. People, I mean, a lot of people just connect in nature and feel complete without needing to name it. I think our minds like to name things, and
Mhm.
it did help me to visualize my higher self. I mean, it's an experience, and it's something that happens by letting go of the attachments of the mind. And that's a daily practice of meditation, mindfulness, taking stillness breaks. It's not going to happen if you're spending your free time scrolling, you know, gossiping, all of these things, shopping, all of these things that our culture um,
Yeah.
supports. And I grew up, I was most of the years in New York City. It was a lot about talking and, you know, socializing, and which is amazing, but I needed quiet time to be with myself in order to connect and to even understand, who am I inside of this body? Because the person that's telling me you're horrible, you're gross, you're a loser, you haven't done anything with your life,
Mhm.
that person is not the same person that, I modeled for 15 years, and people are like, "Oh my god, you look great, you're amazing," but inside I hated myself. I had so much shame, just being like, because I didn't know who I was. And no one ever taught me that it was okay to go through everything. That's why I dove into the studies of Buddhism, and then I started doing Vipassana retreats, silent retreats. And then I didn't have a mentor or teacher, and I heard that you needed a mentor or teacher, and I went to India. I didn't meet anybody. I went
Uh,
to Bhutan. I met nature. I did hikes. I met the mountains. I learned to be alone, but I didn't
oh,
meet my mentor or teachers until later in my life, when everybody else had already gotten out of university, and here I was, like 35. I had no job. I quit modeling, and I decided I have to go back to school. That's when I decided I have to get sober, and I have to go to back to school, and um, get a degree in psychotherapy, because I need to figure out why I'm losing my mind. So that's
uh,
what happened.
this feeling alone, or no, not, excuse me, not feeling alone, learning to be alone. It's such an essential piece in every person's life. how did you teach yourself that? Because that's tough. It's a tough process. It takes I think rigorous practice, but it's attainable. You can do it. And I think that the people that I've talked to that have reached that space say once you are comfortable in yourself, in your body, and I'm one of those people because I love being by myself. I love
Yeah.
silence, but it wasn't easy to get there. So talk to me about how did you get to that stage of being okay and being okay being alone?
I got to that stage of being okay with being alone by uh, I think I did maybe 10 silent retreats, and they were brutal. It's so funny because I thought I'm going to go to a silent retreat in Massachusetts at Insight. It was an incredible school, the best teachers. One of them that I really like, Sharon Salzberg, Tara Brock was another amazing teacher, and um, Jack Cornfield, all of these original teachers that were epic, epic, great teachings. But then you were alone on your cushion for like an hour segments, 8 hours a day.
Wow.
And then you're like, okay, this is going to be cool. I'm just going to sit and be silent. I like to be alone. But when you're alone with your mind, it gets so loud, you think you're gonna lose. You do you I had a
Yeah.
breakdown. It can be super dangerous.
Yeah. That's what I
It's
was
not
just.
for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that it gets dangerous for people who have real scary thoughts. Yes.
Yeah.
But I was going to say absolutely. Like I've had a few moments of myself of, full blown panic attacks because you were so used to having people around you and avoiding emotions all the time. Like I think also the people who don't feel so safe within themselves, they can use other people as medicine. Like I believe
Oh,
that.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's for me, I think also, yeah, I it took a while, but also this is where I was, and I don't know if you can kind of agree with this, but for a long time I was looking at, guides and books, and I was reading a lot of Eckhart Tolle and Gary Zukav books, and watching videos, this, that. Lots of guides were saying you need to find yourself, you need to find yourself, and I would always think that that's kind of, it's difficult, like find myself, like how do I find myself?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I was like, wait, that's something's off about that sentence. So what I did for myself, and this worked for me, is I started to create myself. I started thinking about
That's
what,
great.
yeah, like creating the best version of myself. Like I knew my personality, I knew I was a great person, I knew I had a great character, like I really studied myself, but I didn't really like the finding yourself because some people might not really be able to do that. And what's going to happen to those people? So I believe that creating yourself is such
Mm,
a God-given, beautiful spiritual
yeah.
process. I
Yeah,
mean,
in essence, it's everything.
it is every,
Creating. Yeah. But
because
for me, when you say that, it was I also had an idealized version of finding myself, but I found myself in the darkness, and I found myself by being willing to be with my pain. And if there's one gift that I learned is learning to be okay with not being okay. And
yeah,
in those moments of darkness and depth, and being able to sit with yourself in the feelings without allowing, like, without understanding them as not who you are, but parts of
identity.
yourself that are coming up. And literally now,
Yeah,
because of the intense amount of energy that is literally pouring down on us on this glorious planet Earth from our beautiful sun,
ugh,
it's really pushing us into the edges of ourself at times. And I believe whether you like it or not, the shadows they're emerging, they're coming up to be seen, not by anybody else but by ourselves. So the biggest gift that we can give ourselves is by sitting in silence and learning how to turn towards ourselves, not with the judgment, but with curiosity, and ask, what is this feeling? What is it? What is this feeling here to say? How can I create space for it to be felt without judging it? And
Mm,
that's by asking it what it needs. If it's here, it's for a reason. And I feel as we're growing energetically, we're becoming more energetic. We're
yeah.
becoming less mental, we're becoming more heart-centered, and we're aligning more to our light body, which is the essence of our soul self, that these parts are coming up because they're dense. Our
Yeah.
repressed emotions, they stay within us like a charge, an energetic charge, and every time we get triggered, it that charge explodes, and we can blame or project on our partner, on our job, on
Yeah.
the guy in the car in front of us, on our kids, and complain and whine and bitch and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. Or we can say, instead of turning this outwards, what if I turn this onto myself and turn the light of awareness onto me, myself, and I, and say, what is this feeling? This feeling is coming from within myself. Am I willing in this now moment just to be present with it and
Mm,
just notice it and recognize it as a feeling? It's not who I am. It's a part of me coming up to be seen, and begin to dialogue. I mean, befriending is comes later on,
yeah.
but just first acknowledging it as
Yeah.
being there is the first step to freedom.
That's
Because as long as we're stuck in that tangly web of blame, the blame game, especially in relationships, because
right.
we also meet partners that are this at the same I found in my experience at the same level of emotional wounding as
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's a great opportunity for growth. Some relationships, of course, are not destined to happen, and so I understand that. But there are some, like with my husband, we almost were going to separate at one point because I had gotten so, coming back to the truth part, I was such a people pleaser. I was trying to please him for so many years. It made me so resentful inside. Um, but I didn't want to acknowledge that. It was much
Oh,
easier for me to say, he does
blame
this,
him.
he does that, he does
Yeah.
that. But then when the shit got really dark and I had to make a choice, am I going to speak my truth and face the fear of him saying, I'm leaving? Or am I going to continue my life lying and trying to be something that I'm not? And I spoke the truth. I said, I let it rip. And he, he, he energetically too, something shifted within him. And he's like, it's almost like he needed that as well to see who I was, because obviously it's annoying to be with somebody who's not really authentic. I mean, I thought I was authentic. I was,
Yeah.
I was already
Because
along my
we're
path.
programmed that way. I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes like we can be programmed to that space of like thinking that the people pleasing is actually I'm so kind, I'm great, I'm a lovely person, I spread love all the time. It's like no, because you go home at night, you eat yourself alive. Then you go to like that's not true. I mean, like we've all
Oh
been
my
there.
God.
Like stop with this. I'm a great person. Like no, truth telling does not make you a bad person. Telling somebody no does not
Exactly.
make you a bad person. It actually, I think that the people who can tell the truth and be in that space of, oh my God, what did I just do? People are not going to like me because I spoke the truth are probably the most kindest people because you're kind to yourself first. I think that,
Exactly. Yeah,
that's,
no, but you're very wise.
I
But to
can't,
get there, when you're on the other side and you want to get there, there's a process. And that
yeah.
process is it's a lot about testing. Like for me anyway, it was I would it felt when something is familiar, like the people pleasing it, and it's so known to you, it feels safe. So
It
all of a sudden when you stand up and you speak your truth, your first reaction when you do that is like, oh my god, how did I do that? How did? And I know a lot of people
oh,
that
the
are
guilt,
stuck
Stephanie.
in the shaming for speaking their truth, because it's it it takes a lot of courage.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
It takes some mad guts to be like, I'm going to be okay with you not being okay with me.
yeah,
I think
totally.
that was one of the biggest deals. I kid you not. I lost so many people in my life right
Yeah,
when I started becoming this unleashed, you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
individual. And like something you also think about is who the heck has been in my life with this type of personality, just all there because you were this, yes sir, yes ma'am,
yeah,
yes sir,
totally.
yes ma'am. I would not want to be with I would not want to be friends with anyone that's unkind to themselves.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
That shows me that they're not kind though.
yeah, I remember at the beginning, my husband, I said before, he's Italian, and so he has centuries of patriarchy under his belt, and and he was when I first started speaking my truth, he's like, "Are you joking? Like, what do
Wow.
you mean?" And I questioned myself. I was like, "Oh yeah, maybe that's not right. Maybe I should just be quiet." And I, for me, finding myself and speaking my truth and finding freedom, for him, it was like, he called it, in the beginning, he was joking. He's like, "Oh, this is your emancipation." And and then now I'm like, yeah. And in the beginning, I'm like, "No, no, it's not. Don't worry. I'm not going to change that much." And then I realized that's not truthful. You need to be who you are. I came on this planet to be myself, to unfold who I truly am. And he did too. And I wasn't helping him either by enabling him. In the beginning, he didn't like it that much, but now he's super grateful, and it took our relationship to a completely new level of trust, understanding, and also knowing when to honor each other's space, because that old codependent stuff is like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's just I mean, I don't know anybody that is surviving in that.
No, no. And also this is exactly what you were talking about in the beginning, that this is when your body starts saying no.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
This is why, for anyone listening to and saying, what does this mean? I think that when your body says no, it can vary. I had severe nosebleeds. That
Oh,
was
did you?
that I did, yeah.
Yeah.
And my therapist called it out. I was young. I was in my 20s at the time, and she's like, nosebleeds. And she's like, okay, we need to talk about what you're doing. And that is the first thing we tackled, is this young, beautiful woman who's just always the yes, ma'am, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, I got you. And so she's like, look, if you're walking on a street and you're hungry, you're starving, but you see a homeless person on the street and they're starving too, and you got a burger in your hand, are you going to eat that burger? Because you're starving too. Or are you going to give it to that homeless person? I said, I'll give it to the homeless person. She said, wrong, wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong. And I said, why am I wrong? That's the kind thing to do. And she's like, no, you need to feed yourself
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you are hungry too. Too. TOO, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. No, it's really true. Yeah.
It is. And it's always being in this, and call it selfish if you want to, but it's not.
Yeah.
Also being really in tuned with your yes, and
Yeah.
pleasing yourself.
Yeah. And then also, if you're a parent, I know I'm a mother. I
Yeah.
have 3 kids. Like, I think that those programs, we if we don't heal them within ourselves, then we just offer them to our children, and that so
Yeah.
they repeat them. So it needs to stop with us, these behaviors, these patterns, these old ways of being that aren't serving our highest good. that we're just continuing because we don't want to rock the boat. How many times I heard that uh, it with clients is, I don't want change. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I understand that, but there's a really important decision you have to make in your life. Are you willing to lose yourself over being who you truly are?
Oh
And
man.
and I don't know about you, but I really want to leave a legacy. And
Yeah.
the person that who I was, she she wasn't leaving anything. She was leaving. I was, I don't know who I would have become, but I wouldn't have become the person that I became because I decided to let go of that program, that I couldn't be who my authentic self, in order to stay connected to those I loved, because the people that I really love and that really love me, they love me more now, and
Yeah.
I love myself more now.
Yeah. And
And
it's such
remember the first time someone, I don't know which teacher, maybe it was Pema Chodron, one of my first teachers, upstate New York. I would listen to her in Omega, 2005, 2006, and she would talk about loving yourself. And that was like a trip for me. I'm like, what does that
really.
mean? Love yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Why would you love yourself?
Oh
How
man.
does that even mean? Like, so you give yourself a hug? No. I
Very
mean,
surface level, right?
it's about honoring your feelings and staying tuned in to your truth, and being willing to use your voice to create boundaries when people are not respecting. Like, it's I for me, it was about boundaries,
Yeah.
learning to take carve out the time for myself, because it's I understand, like, if you're a really kind person, or you're nice, you're busy all the time. It's nighttime, and you have to go to bed, and you don't have time to sit and be still and do your journaling, or process your emotions. So it is it's it it's about creating boundaries around people, um, your kids, your family, your friends, to make time for yourself.
I love what
To
you just said. I'm gonna
Yeah.
cut you off. Sorry. I
Sorry.
I love when you said if you are not very authentic to yourself, then you're a busy person. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
That's
In
powerful.
other words, that's what that's what I said. Of course. Well, also busyness is an addiction as well. People,
Yeah.
if we're addicted
Avoidance,
to,
right?
like, people say, I'm too busy, I don't have time. It's like, well, it's time. It's the old adage, if you can't meditate for 10 minutes, meditate an hour, because
Yeah.
it's the biggest gift you can give to yourself, and self-respect, is taking time away to meet your own needs,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
because otherwise you're just running around like a hungry ghost for
Busy all
others.
the time.
Busy, but also hoping that that person, that shopping spree, that coffee, and I like coffee, I'm not going to, or that drink is going to make you feel better.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you'll never feel full until you fill yourself, uh, emotionally,
Yeah.
with what the emotional needs. And many of that goes back to childhood. And when there's this theory of holes, of A.H. Almas, that Gabor Mate, my teacher, speaks about, that we're born with all these qualities and gifts of strength and perseverance and, hope and joy. And if they're not seen by our caregivers, we develop holes within ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we spend our whole life trying to fill the holes through the external world, until we find out that actually the only person that can fill those holes is ourselves, by
Mhm.
learning to turn towards ourselves and meet our own needs. Like, what is it I really need today? I really need to rest. I really need to play, to dance. I really, I need to be in nature, like a need. And maybe it's just a bath, or silence, or
Something
can,
simple. It doesn't matter,
yeah.
right? Yeah, yeah. That's powerful. What do I need today? That is such a beautiful I don't know, I don't even I could call it an affirmation, but that's beautiful to wake up to that and ask yourself,
Or
what am
the best way to phrase that is because I remember when I first heard that and I was still drinking, I'm like, what do I need? I need my inner self was like, I need a bottle of wine. Like
yeah,
I was really like, these are my needs. I need to numb. But if you ask your inner self or your inner child, what would she or he, what would your 5-year-old self
need.
want to
Yeah.
do today? And visualize yourself at 5. What would you like to have done? Go outside, search for butterflies, dive into a pond, you know, put your feet in the grass, find a ladybug, like little things. Those little things are the gateway to finding your own truth.
Do you want to do that exercise together?
Yes, great.
You ask
Close
me,
your
I'll ask you.
eyes. No, oh yeah. What would I know? But I just said what my inner child would do. Would you like to
Yeah.
share with me? What would your 5-year-old self like to do right now?
My 5-year-old self would love a hug
Yes.
and some words of affirmation.
Okay. Close
It's
your eyes, please.
adorable.
Close your eyes. Tune in. Just
Okay.
putting your arms on your shoulders,
Oh, okay.
but feel what she feels like to receive the hug,
Yeah.
and tune into her young, innocent, beautiful self,
Oh,
and tune into what she needs to hear, and then
yeah.
offer her 5 phrases beginning with I am. Offer those to her. I am.
Silently or out loud?
Aloud.
Aloud. I am happy. I am cute. I am very smart. I am very strong. And I am worthy.
Yes.
Things that
Yes.
babies want to hear.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that was
Beautiful.
adorable. And I remember like when I was around that age, I had like little pigtails like that. My mom would, fix my hair like that. I think
Aw,
inner child work is, oh my gosh, so important.
yeah.
And I love how you brought that up because that truth ties in with that inner child, whether it's a little boy or a little girl.
Yeah. A lot of times I was asked, how do I know what my truth how how do I know what my purpose is? And
Yeah.
you know, purpose is something that I was taught to look for on the outside. Like I would
Mm,
find my purpose. I was looking around, like there would be, somebody would walk around with a tray, and my purpose would be there. And then I realized that my purpose would come when I would align to my inner truth, and my inner truth would unfold from my willingness to be still with my inner self. And how could I impress my inner self, my inner child or inner self? Because
oh,
it, and what would really bring her joy? How could I offer that to her? And little by little, by tuning into my inner inner self, younger self, my truth unfolded, and my purpose, which is what I feel that I'm doing today, actually just it unfolded, not as fast as I would have liked it to. But I
yeah.
met Robert Thurman. I met in New York City at the Buddhist Center. I met my 2 teachers. I all of a sudden I met Gabor Mate. Just randomly I became a meditation teacher, and then I all these things just happened,
Yeah.
maybe not as I planned them to happen. as quickly
Right.
as I wanted them to, but they did. If I needed to get out of the way,
Yeah.
because expectations kill, they kill the path of wholeness.
You know, I don't know if in my trainings, I was always trained by my supervisor, of course, to look for words. When people are talking, observe words.
Yeah.
And there's this word that you used a few seconds ago. And I want to make that out there, say that to everybody that are people pleasers. And they know that they're people pleasers, that the most important person you need to impress is yourself, your
Yes.
inner child. That
Yeah.
was so powerful. I absolutely love that. I'm
Mm.
definitely going to take that. And that's such a wise thing to say, Stephanie.
Wow. Thank you for listening. I just want to acknowledge you for being, you know, such a deep listener, because it's a gift. And through listening, we deepen within ourselves. And through compassionate listening, by listening without being in the mind, but by being in the heart, which I noticed that you have that gift.
Oh,
And so I really want to acknowledge you and thank you for opening up this conversation and allowing for me this space. And I hope it's just the beginning
yes.
of the friendship. And and yeah, and may we all leave today with that image of how of our younger selves, and how can we impress them in this now moment, in this day, in this life, and are we willing to do whatever it needs to impress them, so that they smile, so that they feel seen and loved and heard, because that's the essence of all the teachings,
Yeah.
is self-love. And we can't really fully love anyone or anything else until we learn to deeply forgive ourselves for who maybe where our past,
Yeah.
and come into a place of reconciliation and resonance with the now moment, and be fully open and curious
Yeah.
and joyful, because we need this. We need to embody the joy in this times of darkness,
Yes.
I believe.
Love that. And
Yeah.
I also love how you broke down what self love really is, because the definition is very surface level and it's not really explained. So you're absolutely right. People would think, like, oh, what is it, a hug? Self love is hugging myself, looking at myself in the mirror and saying, wow, you look great. And
Amazing.
right. And it's so much deeper than that. It's honoring your boundaries. It's understanding when to say yes comfortably, no confidently. I love that explanation. Like, everything you said was just so spot on and beautiful. I'm so honored
Mm.
to have you on my show, honored to know you. And I know with this episode, people are really going to really just click and really understand how to start with their truthful journey.
Mm, wonderful. Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.